The dim glow of the control room's monitors illuminated the worried faces of the survivors. Marcus lay on a makeshift bed, his breathing steady, but his condition still critical. Ava, Elena, Jonas, Karen, and the others gathered around, their expressions a mix of relief and dread. "We've done everything we can for now," Karen said, her voice weary. "The X-13 seems to be working on Marcus, but there's not much left. And from what I've read, it only works in the early stages of the transformation." Elena nodded, her brow furrowed in concern. "Which means it's useless against fully turned shadows." A heavy silence fell over the group. The hope that had briefly flickered in their hearts was now dimmed by the stark reality of their situation. "So, we're back to square one," Jonas said bitterly. "We have no way to stop them, and we're running out of options." "We can't stay here," Ava said firmly, her eyes fixed on Marcus. "This place is becoming a trap. We're losing too many people, and the shadows are getting bolder." "She's right," Karen agreed. "We need to move, find somewhere safer. But where do we go?" Before anyone could answer, a loud crash echoed through the facility, followed by the unmistakable growls of shadows. The group tensed, their hearts racing with fear. "They're here!" Elena shouted, grabbing her weapon. "We need to get out now!" The group sprang into action, gathering their supplies and preparing to make a run for it. The shadows had breached their defenses, and staying meant certain death. As they made their way through the dark corridors, the shadows closed in, their glowing red eyes and guttural growls filling the air with terror. The group fought bravely, but the shadows were relentless. "We're losing too many!" Jonas yelled, his voice filled with desperation. "We need to move faster!" Ava, Marcus, and Karen led the way, their determination driving them forward. But as they reached the exit, a shadow lunged at them, its claws slashing through the air. "Watch out!" Marcus shouted, pushing Ava out of the way and taking the brunt of the attack. He fell to the ground, blood seeping from a deep wound. "Marcus!" Ava screamed, her heart breaking at the sight. Elena and Jonas fought off the shadow, but more were closing in. They had to keep moving. "Get him up!" Karen urged, her voice filled with urgency. "We can't stay here." With great effort, they lifted Marcus, their hearts heavy with the fear that they might lose him. They stumbled out of the facility, the shadows' growls echoing behind them. The group emerged into the harsh light of the outside world, their eyes squinting against the brightness. The landscape was barren and desolate, a stark reminder of the world they now lived in. "We need to find shelter," Elena said, her voice resolute. "Somewhere we can regroup and tend to the wounded." They moved quickly, their footsteps echoing on the cracked pavement. The shadows were still pursuing them, and they couldn't afford to slow down. As they ran, they encountered the group that had been with Ava and Marcus before. Their faces lit up with relief and joy at seeing familiar faces. "Elena! Ava!" one of them shouted, rushing forward. "We thought we'd lost you!" "No time for reunions," Jonas said urgently. "We need to move. The shadows are right behind us." The combined group pressed on, their strength and determination renewed by the reunion. But their joy was short-lived as the shadows closed in, picking off stragglers one by one. "We're not going to make it," Karen cried, her voice filled with despair. "Yes, we will," Elena said fiercely. "We have to." They pushed on, their bodies aching and their spirits flagging. But as the sun began to set, they found a small, abandoned building that offered a glimmer of hope. "In here," Ava urged, leading the way. "We can barricade ourselves in and buy some time." The group hurried inside, their hearts pounding with fear and exhaustion. They quickly set to work, blocking the entrances and fortifying their position. As night fell, The shadows' growls echoed outside, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked in the darkness. Inside, the group tended to the wounded, their minds racing with thoughts of survival. "We need a new plan," Elena said quietly, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't keep running forever." "But what do we do?" Jonas asked, his voice heavy with doubt. "We find a way to fight back," Ava said firmly. "There has to be something we haven't thought of yet to kill them." Elena's words hung in the air, a beacon of resolve in the face of overwhelming despair. The small building provided some shelter, but it was far from safe. The shadows' growls and the occasional crash of their attempts to break in were a constant reminder of the danger outside. Ava sat beside Marcus, holding his hand. His breathing was shallow, and the dark spot on his arm seemed to pulsate ominously. Karen was examining the wound, her face etched with worry. "We need to find something to slow the spread," Karen muttered, rummaging through their medical supplies. "We can't lose him now." Elena approached, her expression grim. "How is he?" "Not good," Karen replied. "The X-13 is working, but the wound is severe. We need to find more supplies, and fast." Jonas and a few others were barricading the windows and doors, using whatever they could find to reinforce their defenses. The atmosphere was tense, every noise outside making them flinch. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the building. One of the barricades had been breached, and the shadows were pouring in. The group sprang into action, weapons ready. "Defend the entrance!" Elena shouted, swinging her makeshift weapon at an approaching shadow. "Don't let them get through." The fight was chaotic and brutal. Shadows lunged at them, their red eyes glowing with malice. The survivors fought with everything they had, but the shadows were relentless. Ava found herself cornered by one of the creatures. It snarled, its claws slashing through the air. She swung her weapon, barely managing to fend it off. Just as the shadow was about to strike again, Marcus, despite his injury, tackled it to the ground. "Marcus!" Ava cried, helping him to his feet. "You need to rest!" "I can't just sit here," Marcus grunted, wincing in pain. "We have to fight." Elena and Jonas were holding their ground at the entrance, but the shadows kept coming. One of the newer survivors, a young woman named Lily, screamed as a shadow grabbed her. Jonas managed to pull her free, but not before she was injured. "We can't hold them off much longer," Jonas yelled, his voice strained. "We need to fall back." "Everyone to the second floor," Elena commanded. "Now!" The group retreated up the stairs, dragging the injured with them. They quickly barricaded the stairway, using furniture and debris to block the shadow's path. As they caught their breath, the reality of their situation sank in. They had lost more people, and their defenses were crumbling. They couldn't stay here. "We need to leave," Elena said, her voice firm but filled with sorrow. "We can't fight them off forever." "But where?" Karen asked, her eyes filled with despair. "Where can we go that's safe?" Ava glanced at Marcus, who was leaning against the wall, struggling to stay conscious. "We need to find another, please. It's dangerous, but we can't survive here." Elena nodded, her mind racing with thoughts of their next move. "All right, we'll gather what we can and make a run for it at first light." The night was long and filled with tension. The shadows continued to batter at their makeshift barricades, but the survivors held on, determined to see another day.